Welcome to the Wander Creative Podcast, your guide to digital marketing. Journey with us as we navigate organic social strategies, discover the latest in paid advertising, and explore current trends in content creation. Your weekly roadmap to figuring out the ever-changing digital world starts now.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wander Creative Podcast, Season 2. My name is Dan. I'll be acting as your host for today. I am joined here by Abbey and Asa, both content creators, artists in their field. We have a designer, we have videographer, photographer. I mean, you guys both really do it all.
Just all of it.
I don't know about that, but
just amazing.
We try. We really do try.
Honored to be able to be on here with you guys and just to kind of learn from y'all. So
what do they say? Like doer of all, master of none, or something like that?
Yeah.
What is
master
the quote?
of
It's
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that.
Yeah. So today we'll be talking about how to capture content that captures attention. Ooh,
Love
play on
it.
words. Play on words. We love to see it. Stunning, innit? Anyways, tell us a little bit how long you guys have been content creators and what that's looked like for each of you.
Ladies first.
okay. I mean, I've been taking photos and videos since I was like in middle school, which yikes. I don't want to look back at that. Sends a shiver down my spine just thinking about it. But I got my first DSLR in high school, so I feel like I began to teach myself.
Mm-hmm.
Then I studied design in college and moved to Nashville and worked at a small publishing company and did a lot of marketing design, but also helped with photo shoots. So just kind of create mood boards, shot lists, hire models, and kind of execute the whole thing. So that's been really fun. And then, now I'm at Wander. Happy to be here.
I feel like mine's a little less exciting / I graduated. I didn't get into it till I graduated college.
Okay.
And just kind of fell into a job that made me learn it. And
Yeah.
so like kind of just started watching YouTube videos, tutorials, stuff like that. Kind of fell in love with it. But I will say I kind of started in the sports realm.
Sure.
So started off in kind of that industry, learned all that kind of stuff through YouTube and just shooting and, just kind of learning on the fly pretty much. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think it's wild because really all of our stories, I mean, I was kind of similar in photography. Like, I started really in college. I mean, I got, you make like little home videos and stuff as kids.
Totally.
But like, when I started really getting into, this is a nice camera, a Sony of all cameras.
Starting drama.
For those listening, there is a little bit of a feud between the Canon users and the Sony users. It's fine.
Just
some tension.
there's
but
not a feud.
There's tension.
There's tension. It's awkward.
You can
Different
feel it in
opinions.
the air. You could cut it with a spoon. Anyways, but it's interesting because we all kind of got into it either college or high school. And I think that the world is of content creation is so different than when we got into it.
Yeah.
And it's really, really changed. And I think a part of that has been seeing how attention spans have gotten so much shorter than when we, were in college and high school. So tell me, kind of how that's affected content creation as designers, as videographers, and what that's looked like.
Well, I think it's always something that I think about, even like while we're shooting, when I'm editing, literally like everything. Like when I'm shooting it, I'm thinking in my head, like, is this exciting enough? Is it fast enough? Is it going to grab someone's attention? Because if it doesn't, then like it's like, what are we even
What's
doing?
the point?
You know?
Right.
So I think it's a big thing, and I've started to kind of be conscious of it even when I'm planning shoots now. Like before, it was like you kind of think about it as you're editing and stuff like that, but I think now it's like as you're planning stuff out, it's like, how are we going to make this exciting and like really grab people's attention? And I think another important thing too is because like Instagram, everything, we're just scrolling. That first 5-10 seconds, you got to grab someone's attention.
Yeah.
Like you've got to do something, whether it's a shot, an edit to a photo or a graphic, you got to make them stop that scroll and watch the next 30, 40 seconds of your piece. So yeah.
This is definitely off script, but like what's a way that you do that? Like, are there some tips and tricks on ways to like, that actually did stop me? Is it colors? Is it cuts? Is it?
Yeah, I think for me, being more in the video space, I think it's motion. It's, quick paced videos. It's the music track, all that kind of stuff. Music can be a big part, but I think really it is the shots themselves, because a lot of times like people are scrolling Instagram and you're at work and stuff, you don't have that audio on. So for me, it's just trying to capture their attention with the movement of the shots and just making it look, very interesting. For me, like again, I started in a lot of like sports stuff and, shooting training and games and stuff like that. So just, capturing those plays or, those athletes, stuff like that, making it look super exciting and getting people to stop that scroll.
Yeah. How about for you, Abbey? Like, I mean, people are scrolling so fast within the design realm. Kind of what's something in the design space that could make someone stop in their tracks a little?
I mean, I feel like it's definitely harder because you don't have that motion element, which you can definitely add that in with some GIFs and kind of help to keep it interesting. But I think it just, it really has to stand out. So whether that's just the quality of it or the colors or the boldness, I think you just have to, take that into account.
So your team GIF, not GIF.
Oh, I'm GIF. Yeah, what are you guys?
Dang, I'm a GIF.
I think I'm a GIF too.
I'm a GIF dude.
Okay.
Hey, we agree.
Whoa.
Let's go.
Whoa, awkward.
No, that's good. That's good.
Enemies are bonding.
We needed this.
Okay.
Yeah, this is big.
This is good.
This was big for us.
Okay,
yeah,
wow. Glad I could do that for you.
I think from the photo side too, something I've been really practicing is perspective in photo. And I think something that I was doing was just kind of too much eye level shots. And I think with a lot of medium format and then like even kind of the old style film medium format where you'd hold them at your waist and take the shot, something that was interesting about that was that that's a perspective that you don't usually see the world.
True.
Unless you're me and you're short and then you do kind of see the world from that view. But really that's something I've been playing with is what are different angles. And this is kind of a cheesy example, but my niece, we're in an age now where like they get technology that's so like cheap, but that would have been expensive to us as kids.
For sure.
And she got one of those like pink rubber cameras that just takes digital photos and stuff.
Love it.
But it's so interesting seeing photos from her perspective, and I actually legitimately think it's art.
Yeah.
Because I look at those and it's like it's upward aiming at mom and dad holding hands, and it's like I'm seeing life through the eyes of a child and what she sees and says this is worth taking a photo of.
Yeah.
And so I think that applies to
and I think that applies to like not even just photo but video too. It's like because I mean let's be honest, a lot of this stuff people are shooting like similar things. Like whether it's I don't know, performances or games or like whatever you're shooting, like you're probably doing that multiple times. So like experimenting with different angles, shooting it from up high, shooting it down low. Like I think that's a great way just to kind of and challenge yourself not to shoot it the same way you did the last time.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like
totally.
It maybe it worked last time, but like let's experiment a little bit.
For sure.
And like challenge yourself to do that too. I think it's important.
Yeah, and with that, just trying to see, like you talked about, differentiating yourself from other competitors, other photographers, or whatever brands are doing. I think even just thinking through editing style and how if you can get that elevated, consistent like editing style that stands out from your competitors, I feel like that's just a huge thing. And especially I feel like in this day and age, aesthetics is just so important and everyone values it, whether they're super creative or not.
Yeah.
So I think just trying to push yourself a little bit further with even that post after shooting and stuff.
Totally. As people who both kind of picked them up, I mean, I know that you kind of started in your job and that's when you started, but as people who have passion about creating content, how do you, a lot of times when that's your job, it can be hard to keep loving it. What are some ways in which it's staying fresh for you guys and ways in which that you're still growing a passion for it while also it being a large part of your job?
I think for me, and you'll probably have a different opinion on it, but I think for me, it's like not trying to like kid myself into thinking that it's going to be super exciting and the most exhilarating thing I've done.
Sure.
Like each day.
Yeah.
There's going to be jobs and there's going to be things you do and you're kind of just,
it's a job.
you got to do it.
Yeah.
Like today it's just a job, you know?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, again, I heard you talk about it like an earlier episode that like, Instagram and stuff like that's the highlight reel and you're seeing.
Sure.
Like, I'm going to post the concerts and stuff that I shot of a really like cool artist or the videos I've shot, but like I might not.
There's
have
other work too.
Yeah. And so I think just being realistic about it and knowing that, hey, today you're just going to have to punch the clock and get this thing done. Totally. But I think you got to do that stuff to set yourself up for those other jobs and things like that. So I think just being realistic about that.
Yeah.
I think, because that's something I really struggled with too. I was like, man, like I just don't really want to do this today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think just not being okay with it, but just understanding that like that's just going to be part of it.
Sure.
And so that's kind of like helped me to like kind of get through some of that stuff.
Yeah.
That's really good. Being realistic about dreams. Because I think when you see it on social media, it sounds like, oh, someone's living their dream. I really want that.
It's so hard too. Cause like, I feel like in this space and like, again, I do a lot with like the sports stuff too. So like I kind of always lean back to that, but like every college, every sports team has a social media shooter and stuff like that, and you see how they shoot things and how they edit and stuff like that, and it's hard not to compare yourself to like, dang, like that looks really good.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Oh, they're having a blast.
Why didn't I think of that or listen to that? And it's like,
Sure.
you know,
Yeah.
just giving yourself some grace too, and just being like, hey, it's, you know, you don't always compare. It's so hard to do, but I think just like kind of having a good understanding of that is important.
That's good for sure. I feel like another way I definitely push is kind of just working with stuff that's outside of work. So whether that's moving to film and experimenting with film, or even just when I'm with my friends and I'm using my iPhone, how can I be creative in a space where I'm technically still a photographer, but how does that look in just a way that I enjoy? And so I think being able to focus on being creative outside of work or outside of your normal daily routine is just so important.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think even on the photography side, for me, it's really about keeping a passion project.
Yeah.
And so I was going to say very similar, like outside of work. And for me, it was like, an example is and you guys I think know about this. I did the classic TikTok trend where you shoot a disposable camera, you take it apart, you take out the lens, you drill a hole into a lens cap, and you put and so it's like, but everything legitimately looks like it's from a 90s film camera. Yeah. And you don't adjust any of the settings on it because it's just fixed. Yeah. So so it's been really fun because that actually reignited a passion for photography in me. Yeah. Where I was able to focus on capturing moments rather than what settings are right for this moment.
For sure.
And I think little things like that have really kept.
It's crazy how that's a thing now, because like I remember first learning, like doing all this stuff, I was like, it took me forever to figure out aperture.
Yeah, the technical side.
And I feel like I finally got it down now, and now it's like, now it doesn't matter.
Go back to film.
Just shoot whatever. And that video, I'm like, shoot.
Yes,
like,
100%.
I feel like I finally got a good handle on it, and now it's like, it doesn't matter.
Well, what's funny is I actually started on film, and then I went digital, and so like it's kind of fun because I feel like I'm going back.
Yes.
Which is fun, even though it's still digital, and I can still color grade as if it's digital. But I can,
on most shoots now, I carry like an old like Canon Coolpix.
Oh, that's fun.
Like,
that's
little
sick.
thing.
Yes.
And it's like cool just to like, this looks terrible. Yes. But like that's kind of the move
looks
now.
like
You know? So it's like, it's kind of cool. Like you were saying, like whether you're using your iPhone and stuff like that, like challenging yourself. Like I bring that along, and like
for sure.
It's been kind of cool.
Yeah, and kind of just going back to what made you love it in the first place. I think, like you said, when you don't have that technical knowledge, you're not thinking like, oh, my ISO is so high and it's so noisy and it's so grainy. But I think just playing the way you would have when you were younger and you were learning it, or whenever you learned it. So going back to like when I just enjoyed it just because I loved the way things look, like how can I go back to that? So even if that's forcing you to use different equipment or whatever, different methods, just kind of playing with that so that passion is still there, I feel like is really important.
And I think that's kind of the beauty of a lot of this stuff too, because like there's a lot of it, it's like you got to do, and I think with like kind of like the social media marketing and stuff like that, there's a lot of like, hey, you got to do this, 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 and this, you know, and there is some of that with like what we're doing too, but I feel like there's just so much, there's rules, but there's not rules. There's not really rules, there's guidelines. Like, hey, there's a way you should do this, but like, feel free, if there's a better way, like let's figure it out. And I think that's one of the coolest things and like about this stuff is it's like, there's rules, but like, let's kind of break them.
Yeah,
you know what
agreed.
I mean? And let's just see what we can come up with, which is like super cool, I think.
Yeah, I always like to look back and say what made me love photography. Yeah. Obviously there was like some landscape photography that I liked, taking waterfalls or hiking or whatever. But I think I really realized that what it boils down to is I like capturing memories. And when I realized that, that's what made me draw towards that kind of, disposable lens idea where it's like I took them and I was showing them just some photos on a beach trip I was just on, and they were looking at them and they said, these feel like a distant memory even though you just took these.
I love that.
And so that's why I actually don't take any posed photos. Like I don't like posed because it's like, hey, I've seen you smile and you're just at a location. I want to capture you guys laughing as you're talking about something, and I'm actually feeling like I remember that. Them smiling with their arms around each other is not what I remember about the beach. It was
I love that.
Them
the memory
games and them, and stuff. So
I think that kind of goes back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier. Like, how do you combat it being a job? Like, get back to that. Like, get back to why you started doing it. And like, because like when I first started, I wasn't really that worried about how it looked or what. Like I was, but I wasn't. You know what I mean? I was
because you don't know.
It wasn't, and it wasn't a job.
No, I was just pumped to do it. You know what I mean? Totally. So like, I think trying to get back to that.
So kind of on that note, I mean, TikTok's huge. Obviously, all the like reels are huge, all this stuff. Do we feel like the industry is shifting towards video? I mean, it had been for a while, but do we see it continuing to go that way? Or are you saying, do you think, if not, what roles do they both play in the same space, photo and video?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like they're both still pretty relevant. I mean, I'd probably lean towards video being a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree.
Just because I think it's a little bit newer.
Sure.
In the way that more and more people can do it.
Right.
And like
make
do
look
it
good.
pretty well. Yeah. But I still think there's a place I still love just like seeing really, really good photography and like
Sure.
stuff like that.
It's refreshing.
Yeah, I think video is a little bit more exciting because it's moving and, you know, different things like that. I still think there's a space for both of them, but I'd probably lean towards video maybe being a little bit more important
Popular.
right
I
now.
agree.
Right now, a couple years from now, it might not be the case anymore. But
Yeah.
I think at the moment, I think video might be a little bit more important. But
Yeah.
I agree, especially with our short attention spans these days. I
Yeah.
feel like video is just the thing that sticks out to people. So I
Yeah.
think that's the thing that's really crucial for growing a brand or whatever right now, because it keeps people's attention. But
Yeah.
I think, like I said before, we're so focused on the visuals of everything. So I know that photo still has a big role to play.
Totally.
So
And I might be a little bit different on this. Like, I really appreciate like good photography. So like, I'll even try to incorporate like photo bursts and stuff like that
Yeah.
into videos.
Yeah,
So I think
totally.
it's
That's
like, because
fun.
I love like, again, like good photos that are shot super well. Like, I love to do like a sequence of photos and kind of put them in to a video to kind of break it up a little bit too. So like, there's ways to incorporate both of those in the same thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, totally. It does seem like there's more longevity to photo to an extent.
yeah.
But that kind of, hey, like you can't really go viral off a photo.
Yeah.
Like you can nowadays on all these platforms that are pushing video.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. So you kind of talked about this. I mean, do you think that for all of that, do you need top of the line gear and equipment, or is it kind of like, what do you need to play?
You want to go first on this one?
Sure.
Or you want me to go first?
I would say I feel like the quality of gear should never stop you from creating content. So I would say
even Canon is okay.
oh my gosh. We're really
I'm just
going
kidding,
there.
I'm just kidding.
We're really
Yeah,
going
yeah,
there.
yeah.
I think all the brands are great. Whatever you're comfortable with, use that. Use
If
that.
any of them sponsored us, we'd be cool with it.
Yeah.
Oh
anyone.
yeah, for
anyone.
sure. But I would say you probably have what you need to get started. I mean, I feel like there's always going to be an upgrade available to you. I really want to upgrade right now too. But I think if you were to keep with that, like keeping up with the Joneses mentality, you're always going to be buying something new. So I think just recognizing that, I mean, the camera's the tool, and whatever message you're trying to convey, even if that's memories with an old film camera that you bought for like $10, I feel like it's really, that's way more important. But I would say once you get the hang of it, I mean, you can always upgrade. So
Yeah.
I think like the equipment's only as good as the person operating it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
agreed.
Like
Right.
you could have $100,000 camera. If you don't know how to use it,
Yeah.
it's pretty useless.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I always tell, because I get asked a decent amount of like, hey, what should I get? What should I get? And I'm like, the thing that helps you do your job at the
Right.
highest level.
yeah.
Right. Agreed.
You know what I mean? And like you said, there's new
There's
cameras that
always
come
more.
out every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always kind of, and I see it and I fall into it every once in a while. I was like,
Totally.
man, that'd be super nice to have that thing, you know? But unless it like inherently like improves your job, makes you more efficient,
Yeah.
I'm usually like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, again, it's only as good as the person that's like behind it.
What I
So,
do, I
yeah.
agree, and I do think it's an element of like, okay, well, how long have you been doing it?
Yeah.
Because like, I mean, yeah, you could be a fast learner too, but it's like, if I've been in photography for 1 year, I'm not needing these
The
full frame
newest,
crazy
yeah.
things. But it's
And again, that's a way to really challenge yourself too, because like there's maybe have a camera that's like kind of old. It's
Yeah,
not as great
and
in
learn
low
to get
light.
good
Yeah.
with
Like
it.
how can you make that
Yep.
work?
Yep.
You know what I mean? You don't have everything available to you. Like, yeah, I've just got this thing, but I'm just going to make it
Yeah.
happen. So
Yeah.
that can be kind of a cool way to challenge yourself
And
too.
Yeah,
I
I love
also
that.
do think that you'll know when it's time to upgrade.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like when you've hit kind of the ceiling with your camera and
Yeah.
you're like, all right, I'm getting very irritated that the quality's not
Yeah.
larger because
Yes.
I'm printing them and
And
it's like-
you'll get to that
That's
point.
true.
Yeah. Because
You recognize.
my
Yeah.
first video and like every once in a while I'll go back and watch them.
just to humble yourself.
humble myself, but also like be like, I'm
good
I've come,
now.
I've come a
I'm
long
good.
way.
Yeah,
like
yeah, exactly.
my first, I shot like an intro video for like the school I was working for at the time, and it was like an old, I
Oh,
think it
yeah.
was a handy cam.
Yeah.
So the thing like
dude.
flipped out, and like I had this
Yes.
thing,
Oh, love it.
and it was like, oh. And I go back and watch those, and at the time, I thought I was so
You
good.
thought it was
I was like, this is
amazing.
amazing. I look
Dude,
back, I'm like, holy smokes.
you put that together with Windows Movie Maker and it was fantastic.
It was fun.
Oh,
No, it was
yeah.
Final
It was
Cut.
Final
It was
Cut?
Final
Jeez,
Cut. I
man.
learned on Final Cut. Yeah.
I learned
Shout
on
out St. Bonaventure
Windows.
University, 2015.
Wow.
I learned on Windows Movie Maker.
I would make
Nice.
things on iMovie,
Yeah.
music
That's
videos
insane.
and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
My wife now had to show me how to cut up video because
Oh,
she like
yeah.
majored in like digital communication and stuff. So like I
Love
got
it.
this
Oh,
job because like
that's
they're like, hey, you're
amazing.
here. Do you want to learn this? And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's so good.
And she was my girlfriend at the time, and she was like, all right, so this is how you cut up a clip. This is how you combine
Yeah,
it and do
yeah.
that kind of stuff. So
Wow.
it was, that
So
was the
she's
whole
feeling
thing.
pretty good right now because
Yeah.
you're on a podcast
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about
yeah.
it.
Shout
so.
shout out Alex.
So
She's she's the reason I'm
The
still
OG.
I'm still doing
She's
Yeah.
getting royalties, rumors.
Oh,
have
for
it.
sure,
Yeah,
for sure.
Income. It's cool. So, I mean, for anyone who's listening that wants to create content that captures attention, what kind of either photo or video software would you recommend that they start with as kind of a intro?
to like edit stuff.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think there's like a right or wrong answer to it.
Yeah,
I think
sure.
it's whatever you feel comfortable or like you're good at the moment. I mean, I'm using, all the Adobe products just because like I've
Premiere,
learned on
all
those
that.
and stuff
Mhm.
like that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of really good, free stuff out there that people can learn on. But
Sure.
I think that's always a good one. But again, whatever helps you do the job the best is what you should be using.
Sure. Premiere, Final Cut. all
Yeah,
those.
they're all good at this point. Except, I mean, Adobe crashes a little bit too
Yeah.
often
Yeah.
for me, but
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, I would agree. I learned on Photoshop and Lightroom,
Yeah.
and even just learning how to like cull through your photos or even using Bridge and just batch edit. I feel like it's really helpful to kind of learn a process, and then even just opening your final images in Photoshop, cleaning stuff up.
Sure.
I like to call it digital vacuuming. Maybe I'll
Nice.
trademark it someday.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just love the Adobe products because I feel like that's what I learned on.
Agreed.
But I mean, there's so many, even if you're just shooting on your phone, like
Yeah.
there's so many amazing apps these days that have high quality presets, and just because our world is moving so much more in that direction.
Yeah.
So
And I would say like don't let that be a barrier for you either. If you don't
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
access to a lot of stuff, like just work with what you can and work with what you have, and make
Agree.
it happen that way. So
Yeah. Awesome. Any last notes, guys?
I want to know what y'all's favorite thing to like shoot is. If you could go out and like shoot one thing, or like one event or
Yeah.
something, like what's like.
That's a great
what
question.
that's a really good
What would that
question.
be for you guys? If you had an answer.
To be honest, it's kind of what I said earlier. It's not an event. It's just a moment, which is so just.
So you don't
the
capture
worst.
I mean, it
you don't
sounds so
you don't
good.
capture photos. You
I
capture
capture
moments.
moments,
Okay.
Wow, you're such
Get me on Hallmark, dude.
Okay. All
no,
right.
but like legit, like
That's why he lives in Franklin, Tennessee.
Yeah,
That's
geez.
right.
Hey,
Just
hey,
so
I do
picture,
too.
so picture. Oh, that's
yes,
right. Yeah.
yes,
I-
picturesque.
my
Just so picturesque
favorite-
down
my
there. Christmas
favorite-
time in Franklin. How beautiful.
Yeah.
I think my favorite photo I've ever taken was actually on an iPhone, and it
Yeah?
was Christmas morning. And I just hate that I'm even saying that, but it was Christmas morning.
I mean, you
and
just said Christmas.
You're
I
wearing,
know.
you're wearing your matching pajamas.
I know.
The whole
Well,
thing.
okay,
yeah.
close. No, but I went over to my family's house for Christmas morning, and my little niece was there who has the camera now. And she loves to grab my hand and run to the piano so we can
Aw,
play together.
that's sweet.
And I captured a moment while we were walking of her holding a finger, and like everything else was blurry from her movement
Yeah.
except her little body with her little pajamas on holding my finger.
Yeah.
And that was like the perspective, and I did black and white with that. But
You know what's
it
super
became
cool
my
about
favorite.
that is
Huh.
like that wasn't a stage thing.
Right.
Yeah.
You didn't
It
have
was
like
real.
lights and everything.
And you didn't have the best camera.
And I loved the movement and the
super cool.
blurriness
Yeah.
and the grain. And so, I mean, that's
love
framed in
that.
my house now, but
Yeah.
that's my favorite.
I think that's cool that like it wasn't planned.
Yeah.
It was just like
I
some
was
of
just
some
like,
of the best
quick.
things are just like
Yeah,
I gotta get a shot
get
of
it
this.
out,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I would say the same. I feel like things that matter to you are kind of the most important. So even just with my family or whatever
Yeah.
and kids, just so cute to look back on. But
Yeah.
I would also say some more like editorial style content when you're able to just be creative. And I feel like maybe the reason I love it is because it doesn't feel like there's rules.
Yeah.
Like it's not like I'm shooting this very specific thing and they want these images to look like this, but it's kind of like the whole point is to play around. So even if I'm messing with the ISO or I'm using different equipment, I feel like it's really fun to kind of shoot more like art projects and all of that and kind of play with the editing because I love working in Lightroom and Photoshop
Yeah.
and just kind of messing with stuff. So I
Seeing
feel
what
like
happens.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like it's
Yeah.
fun to do that when there are no rules.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's your answer?
I'm gonna go a little bit more. I still love shooting like
Events.
live games.
Yeah.
Like I shot a little bit for like the NFL and stuff like that, and like
That's
being in like a
sick.
That's
stadium and
amazing.
like with crowds and
Yeah.
like I played sports growing up, so like I'm still very much like love that stuff.
Yes.
So like being in that environment, I think is like super cool.
If you could compare NFL to NASCAR, Which was more fun to
Which was
photograph?
harder too.
I would guess NASCAR.
NASCAR's
They move a little
harder.
bit
You know what I mean?
faster.
Yeah.
NASCAR, like you gotta pan quick.
Yeah,
How do
yeah.
you do that?
I don't. You just
Just
hope.
pray.
Yeah, you just hope.
Spray
Yeah.
and pray, man. Come on.
That's
yeah,
crazy.
I think the first time I shot it, like I went to like follow a car and I was like, oh, this is real hard.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, I'm not even close.
The first like rapid. You're
I
like,
probably
and
turned
change
it-
my settings.
I
you
probably
know?
turned it in there like, why did we hire this
Yeah,
guy?
no.
He doesn't know what's happening.
No, you probably made great
No,
stuff.
they're all so fun. I just love like, and even like live concerts too. Just
Yeah.
like I think it's just I'm a sucker for like just like the atmosphere and just
The
being in
experience.
that
Yep.
moment is
Yep.
like I just think that's fun, and it
Yep.
makes I think it makes me a better shooter like when I'm like capturing that stuff. It's
And
just cool.
I love when you take it back to the bus or back to wherever you're editing.
Yeah.
And you pull it up and you're like, oh, I got
Yeah.
that. Like I
You're
got
so
the
pumped.
shot.
Or vice
Yeah.
versa when you
Yes.
thought you got the shot
And it's
you
blurry.
didn't.
Even worse.
Yeah.
The car's going
So
too
many
fast.
times I'm like, did you get the shot? I'm like, oh yeah, 100%.
Oh,
Got back and I was like, ooh,
100%.
You're like,
hate to tell you this, I did not
gotta
get the shot.
doctor some clarity.
Way out, yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for
Yeah,
sharing all
it was
your
fun.
expertise. Thank you guys for listening, and tune in next week for the next episode of the Wander Creative Podcast.
Love it.
We'll see
Amazing.
y'all later.
See ya.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us for the Wanda Creative Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and consider leaving us a review on your favorite podcast platform. And if you missed any of the highlights, don't worry. You can get all of the show notes at wandercreative.com/podcasts. And while you're there, sign up for the digital drop to get new episode alerts and also receive the latest digital marketing news, tips, and tools delivered straight to your inbox. Until next time.